Caitlin Clark. Making her fourth All-Star appearance and leading the league in steals.
6 words. That's all it took for Caitlin Clark to freeze the entire basketball world in its tracks.
Ready for the culmination of what has been a wonderful celebration all weekend long.
One moment flipped everything upside down. Was it a joke that landed wrong, or a slick power move that reminded everyone who really runs the conversation? Either way, social media went absolutely crazy. Overnight, narratives started shifting fast. The WNBA, a league usually locked into polished messaging and careful PR, suddenly watched a superstar bend the rules in real time. This wasn't random drama. This wasn't gossip. This was strategy. This was influence. And this was only the opening chapter. To understand how it all popped off, you gotta rewind to July 2025. Indianapolis, WNBA All-Star Weekend. What was supposed to be a pure celebration of women's basketball at its peak turned into something way bigger than anyone expected. Gainbridge Fieldhouse was packed with nearly 17,000 loud, hyped fans. The vibe was electric. The league's biggest names were all in one building, cameras everywhere, ready to put on a show. But behind the glam, the smiles, and the highlight reels, tension was quietly building. Before the game even tipped off,
expiration of the WNBA's collective bargaining agreement and tensions are running high.
Players made a bold statement. During warm-ups, they stepped out wearing black shirts that read, "Pay us what you owe us." That wasn't a fashion choice. That was a message. This was activism in plain sight. The WNBA's collective bargaining agreement was set to expire in October, and the players wanted their voices heard. At the time, WNBA players were receiving roughly 9% of league revenue, while NBA players were pulling in around 50%. A massive gap.
Kelsey Plum to the Sparks. This was the first trade in the league history, and Kelsey Plum heads to LA with the 9th overall pick.
A lot of these women still had to play overseas in the offseason just to pay bills, so the message was clear, unified, and honestly overdue. Until one comment cracked the whole moment wide open. Enter Kelsey Plum, Los Angeles Sparks guard, vice president of the Women's National Basketball Players Association.
You know, not to tattletale, but 0 members of Team Clark were very present for that.
Sitting at the post-game press conference next to New York Liberty star Sabrina Ionescu. Cameras rolling, reporters locked in, and Plum decided to say something nobody asked for. While talking about the coordinated shirt protest, she said the shirts were a united front, determined this morning that we had a meeting for. Then she added, and you know, not to tattletale, but 0 members of Team Clark were very present for that. Boom! The room went dead quiet for a second.
We had a very,
That really needed to be mentioned.
Sabrina Ionescu, sitting right next to her, couldn't even hide it. She rolled her eyes and snapped back sarcastically, clearly signaling that comment didn't need to be said. The tension was thick. Even in that moment, the discomfort was written all over Ionescu's face. She knew exactly what just happened. What should have been a moment about unity, leverage, and fair pay suddenly turned into what looked like a sideways shot at the league's biggest star.
The Caitlin Clark will miss tonight's fever game against the Sparks with a groin issue.
And here's the wild part. Caitlin Clark wasn't even playing that day. Clark wasn't at the meeting. She wasn't on the All-Star court, not because she didn't care, but because she was at home recovering from a groin injury she'd been dealing with since mid-July. She was literally sidelined, focusing on her health. So the idea that Clark was dodging activism or refusing to stand with her peers wasn't just wrong. It came off disrespectful. This is the same player who had completely changed the WNBA's landscape since day one. TV ratings exploded. Jerseys were selling out. Ticket prices jumped. Expansion fees reportedly skyrocketed from around $50 million to nearly $250 million almost overnight. Clark was a major reason the league suddenly had real leverage at the negotiating table. Yet there was Plum, on a global stage, hinting that Clark and her camp weren't really about the cause.
Clark, this is one thing you get with Clark is great pace and great passes. Found Boston perfect.
The reaction was immediate and ruthless. Social media lit up. Fans dragged Plum hard, calling her jealous, petty, and short-sighted. Analysts jumped in, including Colin Cowherd, who roasted Plum for taking shots at the one player many believe helped lift the WNBA from budget travel to private jet conversations. And just like that, one comment changed everything. The numbers don't lie, and since Caitlin Clark stepped into the league, the data has been screaming.
WNBA is out with new TV viewership numbers. It's been the most watched in the league's history.
TV ratings shot up fast. Merchandise started flying off shelves. Ticket prices climbed almost overnight. And then came the big one. Expansion fees exploded from roughly $50 million to nearly $250 million in what felt like the blink of an eye. That's not coincidence, that's impact.
Decades, the best get-ahead passer, and her three-point shot.
Clark instantly became the WNBA's biggest bargaining chip in salary negotiations. Yet despite all of that, Kelsey Plum chose that exact moment to publicly go at the league's most valuable asset. Timing matters, and this timing was wild.
Caitlin Clark, which one is
WNBA players.
Do you feel right now you're the best player in women's college basketball?
What made it even more interesting? Clark didn't say a single word. No tweet, no statement, no explanation, no defense. While the internet went to war on her behalf and think pieces popped up everywhere debating veteran resentment toward rookies, Clark stayed completely silent. She let the noise swirl around her while she stayed calm, focused, and unbothered. This wasn't weakness. This was control.
Kelsey had a big game. Team had a big dominating game over Caitlin's.
Clark understood something Plum didn't. Sometimes the strongest move is not responding at all. Sometimes you let success speak for you. And when the moment is perfect, when the opening is undeniable, that's when you strike. This was chess, not checkers. Clark was thinking 3 moves ahead while everyone else was still stuck reacting. Fans defended her nonstop. Analysts argued over Plum's comments. Social media churned with nonstop outrage. But Clark stayed locked in on what actually mattered. Recovery, preparation, and building her empire brick by brick. Jumping in immediately would have made her look defensive. It would have given more life to the comment and amplified it even further. So Clark waited. She let the backlash do the heavy lifting. Let others shape the narrative. Colin Cowherd roasted Plum on national television. Social media shredded the logic of attacking the league's biggest draw. Sabrina Ionescu's eye roll turned into the viral image that carried the entire story. And then, right when the timing was perfect, Clark finally moved. Just one day later, Kelsey Plum posted on Instagram celebrating All-Star Weekend with a simple caption, "What a weekend." Smiling photos, teammates, Gainbridge Fieldhouse, Indianapolis. But Clark noticed something Plum clearly didn't. A massive Nike logo sitting right there in the background. Here's the catch. Plum isn't a Nike athlete. She switched to Under Armour back in 2022 and even debuted her own WNBA colorway. Clark, on the other hand, Nike royalty, multi-million-dollar deal, face of the brand in the league. And Clark wasn't about to let that slide. Her response? Just 6 words. "Thank you for the Nike ad." No emojis, no exclamation points, no aggression. Just a clean, razor-sharp observation delivered with calm confidence from someone who knows exactly where she stands. The internet lost its mind. Screenshots flooded timelines. Fans argued whether it was petty or pure genius. Sports blogs, podcasts, and analysts broke down every angle of those 6 words. With that single line, Clark reminded everyone of her influence, her brand power, and her deep understanding of the business side of the game. Something Plum, despite years in the league, clearly underestimated. That's where the brilliance really sat. On the surface, it felt playful, almost ironic. But underneath, it was calculated. A subtle but unmistakable reminder of who the league's most marketable star really is. Plum had unknowingly handed Clark the perfect setup, and Clark delivered a clean knockout. It wasn't personal, it was precise, smart, and devastatingly effective. Clark didn't need to list ratings, revenue, attendance numbers, or achievements. Those 6 words did all the work. After that, silence, no comeback, no clarification, no defense. Days passed, then weeks, and the story settled. Everyone knew what happened. Plum knew she'd been outplayed. Any response would have only made it worse. And in that moment, Caitlin Clark reminded the world who truly holds the power in women's basketball. Not through press conferences, not through interviews, but through timing, strategy, and presence. Clark wasn't just dominating on the court, she was giving a masterclass in influence and control. Because in the WNBA, power isn't only measured in points or highlights. It's measured in knowing the moment, reading the room, and understanding exactly when to stay silent, and when 6 simple words are more than enough. Clark proved something huge in that moment. The future of the league isn't just about raw athletic talent. It's about intelligence, poise, and having an unshakable grip on both the game and the culture surrounding it. Caitlin Clark didn't just respond. She reminded everyone that in this era of women's basketball, power is earned, timing is everything, and sometimes silence speaks louder than any press conference, any quote, or any headline. This was the power of one star, fully on display. It wasn't until mid-August, nearly a full month later, that Kelsey Plum finally addressed the situation publicly. She appeared on Sue Bird's podcast, Bird's Eye View, and walked back her comments in what clearly looked like damage control. "Oh, I made a bad joke," Plum admitted. "I made a really bad joke." She went on to explain, "I honestly was like, hey, Team Clark, they didn't make it to the meeting either. Just making a joke. Trying to make the room lighter." She added that she was joking about teams being hungover, saying, "At least we made it." Plum also acknowledged that she regretted how her comment pulled attention away from what actually mattered, player compensation and the upcoming CBA negotiations. She emphasized that the players were unified, that everyone wore the shirts, and that she never intended for the moment to turn into a story about Caitlin Clark versus league veterans. But this whole situation revealed something much deeper than two players trading subtle shots online. It exposed the complicated power dynamics inside a league going through explosive growth. Right now, the WNBA is changing fast, and a huge part of that change is tied to one player's unmatched popularity. While longtime veterans, who've been grinding in relative obscurity for years, are watching the landscape shift under their feet. Make no mistake, the growth is real, and it's transformational. Before Caitlin Clark arrived, the WNBA was struggling with visibility. Viewership numbers were low. Primetime games felt like afterthoughts. Arenas were often half full. Media coverage was limited. Despite the incredible talent on the floor, the league was reportedly losing around $40 million a year. Then Clark showed up, and almost overnight, everything changed. Television ratings doubled, tripled. In some cases, they even quadrupled. Indiana Fever games became must-watch events. Merchandise with Clark's name and number sold out faster than stores could restock. Ticket prices surged across the board. Suddenly, casual sports fans who had never watched a WNBA game in their lives were tuning in just to see what the hype was about. Investors noticed too. Expansion fees jumped to $250 million as real profit potential finally entered the conversation for the first time in the league's 28-year history. Now, for veterans like Kelsey Plum, that shift couldn't have been easy to watch. Plum is an elite player in her own right. She's a two-time WNBA champion with the Las Vegas Aces, a former #1 overall pick, a multiple-time All-Star, and a Team USA representative on the international stage. She's earned every ounce of her success through years of work and consistency. But despite all of that, she's never experienced the level of mainstream attention or financial opportunity that Clark commanded from day one. That's not Clark's fault. That's just the reality of star power, marketability, and timing. Some athletes transcend the sport itself and turn into cultural icons. Clark is one of them. And while it's completely understandable that veterans might feel some type of way watching a rookie walk in and instantly dominate headlines, visibility, and earning potential, that frustration can't be aimed at the person bringing the wave. Because here's the truth, some people still don't want to say out loud. Caitlin Clark's success is everyone's success. The higher the rating she drives, the better the next TV deal will be for every player. The more merchandise she sells, the more revenue the league generates. The more attention she brings to women's basketball, the more young girls will grow up wanting to play. That means a deeper talent pool, a stronger league, and a bigger future for everyone. Clark didn't take anything away. She expanded the whole pie. And that's the part that really matters. Clark isn't taking anything away from veteran players. She's creating opportunities that simply didn't exist before she arrived. Whether people want to admit it or not, every single player in the WNBA benefits from her presence. And to her credit, Caitlin Clark has handled this balancing act extremely well. She's consistently shown respect to veteran players. She's acknowledged the legends who paved the way for her opportunities. She hasn't acted entitled or dismissive. On the court, she's been a true team player with the Fever, sharing the ball, celebrating teammates, not forcing the spotlight to stay on her stats alone. Off the court, she's used her platform to uplift women's basketball as a whole, not just herself. And when criticism or subtle shots came her way, she didn't explode, she didn't rant, she didn't turn it into a messy back and forth. She chose silence or subtle humor instead. That's the mark of someone who understands the long game. Clark knows her success is tied to the league's success. She wins when the WNBA wins, and she loses when the league looks divided or petty. So she moves in ways that elevate the product, even when it would be easy to clap back harder. That's the art of playing it cool. The 6-word Nike comment was probably the closest she's come to throwing shade. And even then, it was playful, not cruel, not personal. It was the kind of celebrity roast that sparks conversation without burning bridges. It reminded everyone of her market power without directly claiming superiority over anyone else. That's confidence without arrogance. And more importantly, it ended the back and forth instantly. Any response from Plum after that would have looked defensive or small. That's masterclass level social media strategy. The wild part? Clark has only been in the professional league for 1 season. She carries herself like someone who's been managing fame and public scrutiny for years, when in reality, she's learning all of this in real time. Looking ahead, the Caitlin Clark-Kelsey Plum dynamic will remain one of the most interesting storylines in the WNBA. Either way, the league will be watching. So far, how this story ends depends entirely on how both players choose to move from here. If Kelsey Plum can let go of any lingering frustration and start seeing Clark as an ally instead of a threat, this could turn into something powerful. 2 elite guards pushing each other, raising the level, making each matchup feel personal in the best way possible. And if Clark keeps handling criticism with calm confidence, subtle humor, and elite play on the court, she'll keep winning over even the loudest skeptics who are waiting for her to stumble. If both players keep the focus on basketball instead of social media, back and forth, or press conference drama, everybody wins. Because let's be real, Indiana Fever versus Los Angeles Sparks games are now must-watch television. Fans will be locked in, eyes glued to screens, looking for extra intensity, extra edge, extra meaning every time these two share the floor. Will Plum defend Clark with that playoff-level pressure she showed during All-Star Weekend? Will Clark respond by lighting up the scoreboard, making her statement with buckets instead of captions? Or will both players keep it strictly professional, treating it like just another game while fans and media hunt for drama that isn't really there? The truth is, both of them are too smart and too focused on winning to let this noise derail their seasons. Clark is locked in on leading the Fever to the playoffs. She's out to prove she's not just hype or a regular season moment. Plum is focused on helping rebuild the Sparks into real contenders after leaving Vegas. Neither can afford distractions. What makes this whole situation so fascinating is that it represents a generational shift happening in real time. The old guard is being forced to share the spotlight with a new star who arrived with more attention, more money, and more visibility than anyone before her. That's uncomfortable. It creates tension. And yeah, it can sting. But it also creates opportunity. If handled right, this could grow into one of those legendary rivalries people talk about for decades. Bird versus Magic, Jordan versus everybody, LeBron versus the world. Clark versus Plum could become the rivalry that defines this era of women's basketball. The kind that pushes both players to new levels while giving fans storylines they can follow season after season. Or it could fade away, just another social media moment that felt huge in the moment but didn't actually change anything. The difference comes down to what happens next.